What's up, everybody? Trip Morgan here with Panthers Source. Going to bring you our Week 14 film review from the Panthers' big win at home over the Minnesota Vikings. A lot of stuff to get to. We've got a few plays, and I've got a special guest today. But first, let's hit that intro. So what's up, everybody? We're back, and like I told you, we had a special guest tonight. Joining us, it is Scott Leedy. I think I'm pronouncing his last name right anyway. I interact with him a lot on Twitter. If you follow, like I've told y'all to follow us on Twitter and interact up there during games mainly, and we talk about stats and analysis and stuff up there. And he's at Marxist Panther on Twitter. I've got his Twitter handle up in the post above if you need to look that up and give him a follow. But Scott, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Obviously excited about the win. A little concerned about the Trey Turner situation. Seems like at this point there's almost no chance he'll play on Sunday. I'd be very surprised. And unfortunately, they're not going to give Moton a chance there. It doesn't seem like for whatever reason. I guess, Larson's fine. Larson's fine. I guess Amini would be pretty much a disaster. So I guess at this point, since they're not going to play Moton, which would be my first choice, I guess I'm just hoping that they stick with Larson, which I'm not really sure how good I feel about him at guard, but I guess anything's better than Amini. So I actually felt relatively confident going into this game, which I know is odd given that we're going against Aaron Rodgers, but Turner being out definitely knocks my confidence back a little bit there. So
talking about a Pro Bowl guard, it's funny, I had Josh Klein on for the Week 15 preview last night from the Riot Report, and I was talking to him about that. And that was the first thing I said was I was hoping to see Taylor Moton get a shot because I know part of the reason we even drafted him was his flexibility from guard to right tackle. And now Absolutely. It seems going out of training camp and going into the season and preseason, it was like, man, this kid actually might take over the right tackle spot before the season's over. And nothing's really happened in that aspect. And he was like, Josh said, you could probably expect Tyler Larson to take it. And then, looking at tweets from reporters today, it seemed like Amini was ahead of Moton on the chart there, and that was really odd to me because that would be a disaster.
It's really confusing because obviously earlier in the season they were giving Amini the reps, which was bad, but I get it. It's a rookie. It is what it is, and I thought we had kind of made some progress on that front where Moton was now the 6OL. Almost every time there had been a game where Amini was a healthy scratch, and basically Moton was the depth, So it started to look like he was the sixth offensive lineman, overall. And I get that Khalil coming back, that's fine if Larson, is whatever. But it's just odd to me that they trust Moton more than Amini in all these other situations. But now when you need somebody to play behind your Pro Bowl left guard, he's behind. It just the logic just hurts your head trying to figure out how they're coming up with these decisions exactly.
Especially when they bring them in on all those jumbo packages for the extra linemen.
That's exactly what I'm saying. It's just weird. It's like I said, early in the season they were using Amini in those, so it just seems like there were all these signs that he'd sort of passed Amini on the depth chart. But then you come on this situation and for whatever reason, apparently he's no longer ahead of him. So. I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know what that is either, but I know the little bit I've seen when Amini stepped in for Trey during games for odd and end reasons, small injuries and nicks or whatnot, it has been, like you said earlier, a disaster. So let's hope that doesn't transcribe. But, guys, if you're watching right now, be sure to, like, follow, subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Twitter. Like I said, follow Scott. His Twitter handle's up in the post above. And we're going to jump into some plays for you guys now and get this thing rolling. And I got to get Scott his screen to watch here. Oh.
Yeah, hopefully we can get this to work. I know we're kind of a little bit here.
Yep.
We're not Matt Waldman. We're not super experienced.
Yeah. Can you see that now, Scott?
Yeah, I can see what you're doing.
Okay, cool. Gotcha. All right, so I'm gonna pull it right on up here. That's BS. I know that is.
Yeah, now I can get full, which is really nice.
All right, cool. So the 5. This is the first one here. Was the pass to Burson, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah. And
I'll
if I was
pause
a
it
better
for you.
guest, I would have taken like detailed notes because I was looking through these plays last night. But I will watch them a couple of times because I think generally you should watch these plays more than once. But basically, what you're going to have on this one, and you're going to see. Let's wait till we kind of get it pulled up here.
Sorry.
Fully.
Yeah.
No, you're good.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, so I mean, you're going to have sort of a 3-by-2 formation. Really, ultimately, the backside there with Funchess, and I think it's Bird who's with him there. That side of the field is going to be relatively irrelevant. And so Cam's going to work this combination to the 3 receiver side. They're going to run what's called what looks like to me anyway is like some version of the stick route. So Olsen's going to run to the flat. You're going to have McCaffrey running deep, basically as a clear out. He's never really a true option on this play unless the coverage busts, which is often the case in some of these 3-man concepts. And then you're going to Burson run what's called a stick route. So he's going to run up and then about to a depth of 5, 6, 7 yards, somewhere in there. And then either, depending on the coverage, either kind of sit, kind of run out a little bit and then sit down like on a curl, or continue out. And in this case, essentially, they look to be playing, whether it's man or sort of a kind of a cover 3 to that side with pattern matching. But essentially what you're going to try to do here is kind of widen that outside defender with that flat route, which creates room in between, Kendricks, the linebacker in this situation, for Burson to work open. But which is good strategy against the Zimmer defense because those linebackers have to cover the inside receiver there, and if you can kind of clear out a little bit of space towards the outside of the field, then Burson can get open on that out route. Now what happens is the concept works well actually, but Kendricks just does a good job of covering that route. And I want to give credit to Burson here because you could say, well, he could keep running out to try and create more separation, but that doesn't really look like it's going to work very well. So he immediately adjusts his route back up the field, which I think is a great move. It's exactly what he should have done. And now maybe it was a stick and nod. That's also very possible. It doesn't look like it to me. It doesn't look like Burson was always planning to do that. It looks more like
it almost looks like it was a flood concept with McCaffrey running the streak up there in a way too. I mean, I agree. It doesn't look like he's running a stick and nod. If it is, it's very unnatural.
Yeah, no, I don't think he's running flood because he would be running a true corner route, and I don't think he's running a corner route. I think it is that stick concept because usually with the stick you're trying to stretch horizontally, so they're stretching that flat defender, and so it's a great adjustment by Burson. It's also a great throw by Cam. Obviously, Burson had to make a tough catch, but if you watch Cam, he buys time in the pocket, makes a nice subtle adjustment, kind of back, holds on basically just as long as he can. And then, I mean, this is ridiculous.
Yeah,
throw.
This window here is crazy.
There's very few people that can make this throw. It's away from the safety because he has to throw it over the linebacker, but away from the safety because you could see. And a lot of times, I mean, you'll get these analysis and say, oh, that's and Romo's obviously not one of these guys. Romo didn't do this. But, oh, it was an inaccurate throw or whatever. But it's not. I mean, you could say maybe it's a little bit too high, but ultimately he has to get it over the linebacker and he can't throw it upfield because that'll hit his guy right into the safety. Now, obviously, Burson still takes a big hit, but because of where the ball is placed, he has a much better chance of catching the ball than if the ball is upfield and he gets drilled like as he's trying to catch it. It gives Burson a little bit more time to secure the ball and make that catch. So I think here you're kind of getting a sense for, I mean, this play was very well covered by the Vikings, and that's basically what happened all day, where no one was really open on this play.
Yeah, everybody else is getting undercut on their routes.
Oh, yeah, everybody is tightly covered. And Burson, sort of gets open. And again, I'll give him a ton of credit. He made a great adjustment both on the play on the ball and both to work open in that middle of the field there. But that is still a very difficult throw. And even though they had, actually I think in this play they only kept 5 in protection. And so, I think the protection did okay, all things considered. Gave Cam just enough, and you see that little subtle adjustment he makes, which he's generally pretty good at, where he slides just a little bit to his right to give himself that extra second, and obviously makes that great throw. So, you're seeing everything you see there. I think we can move on to the next play, but
Yeah,
again,
and this is when this next one is one I've talked to you about, as far as Clay and Damiere Byrd, and it seems they taken more like the plays, not that Clay's been in more since Bird's been back necessarily, but the plays they've put Clay in for seem to be more targeted towards him on deep shots versus Damiere Byrd is in there, but like this play in particular was developed for the deep shot. I mean, it's a long developing play. It's all kinds of stuff. So explain to him what you see here.
Yeah, I actually talked to Billy about this play. This is actually a great play, and I'd like to point out that it works. I know that that's sort of weird to say, but the design works.
Right.
And you wonder if Bird's in there because Clay's I think there's a little bit of a conception about Clay that he's this great deep threat. He's actually not like incredibly fast. I'd say
it's a 4.46 in his combine.
Yeah, which is fast, but not Damiere Byrd.
Right.
Yeah, it's not Damiere Byrd fast. It's not Curtis Samuel fast.
He's
a little more shifty than he is fast. That's why I think he's good on punt returns. He's got a good wiggle to him, just in terms of kind of shaking defenders and making them miss. And he's not slow. I mean, he's no Kevin Benjamin either. So he's not a terrible deep threat. But I think Trey Waynes is like a 4.3 guy, so it makes sense that he's kind of able to get over the top of this route.
Yeah, I was going to say he ends up running the route for him essentially almost. So.
Yeah, which is the reason this play doesn't work, because everything else about the play goes as designed. So you're going to see them, basically create a lot of confusion and a lot of misdirection, which is something that Mike Shula, we can talk about all his weaknesses, but this is something he excels at. So you have this kind of Statue of Liberty almost type of play where you fake that, and talking initially, before that even happens, you have this motion which sets up the idea of, okay, you're going to have this screen out to Whitaker. So that, already the defense has to kind of, I think that's Rhodes, give some kind of signal. They have to account for that. Okay, so if that, now you have McCaffrey coming the other way, you're thinking, oh no, it's the reverse. And then what they're basically doing, and this is, a lot of what happens in the NFL this is not new. They're not doing anything new. All this is window dressing to run a very common concept, which is called Yankee. Which is often run out of heavy protection and play action. So they're just trying to create even more confusion for the defense, bunch of window dressing so it doesn't look like you're about to run Yankee. And what Yankee is if you can go back, let's take it back so we can see the routes again. So you're going to have Funchess here. He's going to run this deep over route. And often, actually, that's the route that ends up being open. You'll see this run a lot with Julio Jones under Kyle Shanahan.
Oh, yeah.
You see Josh Gordon run that route. So he runs that deep over route. In this situation, you're going to see a lot of guys, and in particular, what's important is the safeties and the linebackers are going to bite, which means now look at all that field that is open there behind everybody, and look what Clay has to run into. And that's why I said this play works. The design of this play works great. The problem is that Trey Waynes just plays the post perfectly. And I don't think Clay ran a bad route or anything. I just think Waynes has been playing well as of late. He's very athletic. He's very fast, and he just does a great job. Sometimes the defense just does a great job.
Yeah, I mean, he just opens his hips right up and goes up. I mean, it's like he's running the route for him. I don't know. That's pretty crazy. It is great coverage.
I think that's why I wonder, if it's Damiere Byrd and there's that extra tenth of a second of speed, is he able to keep up with him? Regardless of what. Because that's the thing is once you get into that kind of space, it really is just about a little bit who's faster.
Yeah, I mean, you can round it out. Well, you don't want to, but I mean, you could use that speed in some form when you have that much open space to get yourself open. And running a straight line like he was, I mean, Damiere Byrd's a click faster there. Obviously, game speed's different than a 40, but.
Yeah, you just want. Yeah, what did you see that about Andy Benoit? Said that that's worthless because if you have to carry the ball. So
yeah. And the pads and everything.
That was amazing. Anyways, follow Andy Benoit on Twitter for those amazing takes. So I mean, anyways, I think this is a good example of great play design. I love what they're doing. You'll see them run that concept again. Not necessarily with that exact same window dressing, but they're going to use that concept, and they're going to use it to take these shots. They're going to use it to hit that deep over route. I've even seen them hit Ted Ginn on the over route, not the post on that play. So just keep an eye out for that. And again, I also just wanted to do it to show you just how good the Minnesota defense can be, because even when you fool them, and they did, they absolutely fooled them here, it didn't matter because the individual players kind of, in this case, the individual player made up for it. So,
yeah, really, this one play, the only person that really had to be on top of his game was Trey Waynes, and he was. I mean, because Cam's knowing Cam, he's a deep threat guy. He wants to throw the ball down the field. He's going to be looking for Kalen Clay on that situation. Obviously, if Devin Funchess on that deep cross is streaking open, he's going to try to hit him. But everything was covered. Throw it out.
Yeah, and that's usually how you read it is, if that safety, in this case it was a little bit more muddy because of all the play action, but, if you're looking at, say, a standard cover 3 or whatever, if that safety bites down, then you hit it over the top. If not, usually then that deep cross is open. But in that case, the deep cross was there was 3 people on Funchess, so you're obviously not going to throw that. And the post was, again, wide open, at least conceptually, but great coverage. So that just goes to show you. So this play is an interesting one. So I had to watch this play a few times, kind of figure out exactly what happened. But you're going to see a lot of things here. So it's a bummer. The broadcast and both the broadcast and coaches film don't show us enough here. They should have started earlier, in my opinion, because I think there were some things that happened that we don't get to see, because Cam clearly, if you look at the broadcast, we're not going to look at, and you can see him here, he's talking to McCaffrey. He made some kind of adjustment and some kind of audible. So I think he had some inclination, and there's a really famous clip of Cam, talking about giving a call. He gives a call. He's on that Nickelodeon show or something. He talks about giving a call. And one thing he points out is, is if you see the safety kind of roll down onto a certain side, then, 90% of the time that means that you're going to see if there's pressure, the pressure's going to come from that side. And so my guess is what he saw is he saw Harrison Smith or Barr give some kind of tip that there was going to be pressure coming from this right side. And it's a little odd because they don't slide the pressure. They don't slide the protection that way. They actually slide the protection the other way. And what they do here, and I think it would be easy, and I thought this initially, Matt Khalil made a mistake. He didn't block Everson Griffin, and he should have. But the more I watch it, I don't think so. I think he picks up Barr correctly because Barr's the inside threat. And once Cam and you sees Barr blitz, that means he knows he has to throw hot. There's no choice. And because if Barr blitzes, he's looking at this, and if Barr blitzes, which he must have expected Barr to blitz, I don't think he was surprised by this. I think this is what he expected. So once he sees Barr blitz, he knows that Smith has to be the guy covering McCaffrey. Because if Rhodes goes to cover McCaffrey, that means he's just leaving Bird
wide open.
Yep. So he is immediately going to throw that hot, and you see him kind of talk to McCaffrey. So my guess is what he's saying is don't
get your head around.
Yeah, he's saying don't hit Griffin, just go out, just run your route, and I'll throw you the ball. And that's what he does. And I also wanted to highlight this because Harrison Smith is one of the best safeties in the NFL, probably one of the best open field tackling safeties in the NFL. And I think a lot of us, I think fairly, and I really want to stress this. I think you can think about this both ways. I think both things are true. Both that I expected McCaffrey to get better as the season went on,
Absolutely.
But I also very disappointed with how he was playing early in the season, especially in terms of making guys miss just in the open field. And this was the type of play he wasn't making as consistently.
Yeah, early in the season, he's trying to make a cutback here when he just needs to go.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
I've noticed that the last month, obviously with all his stats going up anyway, but I've noticed it on film too. At the beginning of the season, he was trying to dance too much in the NFL, and it's going to work in some ways, but when you get the ball in that situation, you just got to go. I've seen him too many times miss out on a touchdown opportunity on a big run because he gets happy feet.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what I think, and part of the reason he was going down on first contact so often and all that stuff is that he's small, but he's slippery still. So,
yeah.
I mean, he doesn't beat Harrison here with some kind of amazing cut. He just beats him with balance, decisiveness, and a little bit of strength.
Yep.
Because there's nothing fancy about that play. And it's not about his quickness. I know someone saying it's because of his quickness. There's nothing quick about this play. He doesn't make some incredible jump cut. It's mostly just balance. And that's, again, Alvin Kamara, same thing. It's not so much that Kamara makes these great cuts, is that it's just tremendous balance. It's so hard to bring him down because the hits they kind of bounce off him. And that's a little bit what you saw there with McCaffrey. So, and that's the kind of thing that we just haven't had in Carolina for a long time now. So it was really encouraging to see that play. And I just thought it was a fun play to watch and break down just because of that, where I think it was very clearly that whole thing was planned. You could look at that play and maybe think, oh, there was a mistake here or whatever, but I really think the whole design of that play, kind of was to do that and allow McCaffrey to make that play in the open field. So
and it worked. And this next, and
right.
this next one, guys, this isn't. You're not. The color is just the way the sun hit and the way the all 22 film is. So you have to deal with that. That's not us. But anyway, what do you see here, Scott? And I think this is actually one I wanted to kind of. That might be the next one. Anyway, go ahead. What do you see here? This is the bird catch.
Yeah, this is a big play, and I think it's a really interesting play. So you got a 3-by-1, which you're going to see a lot from the Panthers. It's nice to have Olsen back because they can put him as that one before they're putting like Dixon as the one, which is just a disaster. Often it would be Funchess, which is great. I actually think Funchess is great in the one spot, but it's nice to have more than one option now for that kind of X. In this case, he's not really like the XX because he's more lined up inside, but I love running tight formations. I love running kind of bunch stack formations. I really wanted to see that. One of the things I tweeted out for the Vikings game is I thought they could run this bunch formation and run the pivot route to take advantage of how the Vikings cover, which is often with kind of some outside leverage with their corners, and then with the linebackers, picking up receivers that come over the middle. So I thought, and this play actually works out a little differently than I would have thought. I thought that they would be able to kind of clear out the outside leverage wide receivers, run the guy inside, and then break back outside because those corners are cleared out. Here, they're kind of more end up sort of in man coverage with Alexander. I mean, it's probably some kind of what they call like banjo coverage where, although it looks like Rhodes is taking Funchess no matter what, which was the case a lot of the game. So it looks like, Rhodes is just matched up on Funchess and he's just going to take Funchess. And then my guess is the next, it looks to me then like Wayne's, I gotta have to watch this play again because I don't remember. I think Wayne's they might honestly just be in straight up man here.
It
and
looks
actually,
like it, yeah.
I think that's what's the case. So it could be, and it's tough to tell because they both break inside. It could be that Wayne's is just responsible for the first guy that breaks inside, and it could be that Alexander is responsible for the guy that breaks outside. Honestly, I know this is kind of an interesting take. So I think some people thought, Mackenzie Alexander reads this route and almost gets a pick. I actually don't think Alexander read this route well. I actually think he played it sort of incorrectly. Like he clearly thinks that Bird
was going inside.
Yeah, if you read this play, and I actually don't blame him because if you look at this play right, and this is one of the advantages of being in 3rd and 3 instead of say 3rd and 10, because if you're Alexander and you see Bird break inside here, you have to break on this route immediately because if you don't, it's an easy first down. And so he clearly breaks on an inside route. And he actually makes a nice play because once he's broken on that inside route, you might as well commit to trying to intercept the ball because you're screwed once the guy breaks inside.
And it looked like he did live. When you're watching that game live,
yeah,
I thought he got it.
It's funny. When I saw the throw, I was like, oh, that was picked. Dang, that sucks. But, honestly, and the other reason I want to hide this play is I honestly don't think the throw's late. The throw's on time. The throw's with good velocity, and the throw's with good placement. And that's ultimately why this ball is complete, is because it's exactly where it needs to be. It's on time, and he obviously it's with good velocity. And again, so I wanted to highlight, the use of the pivot concept, which I love out of a bunch formation. You create a lot of traffic. And I also want to highlight again the advantages of throwing on 3rd and short instead of 3rd and long, because you put defenders in much more of a bind. And you can kind of see from this back angle that Alexander isn't nearly as close to intercepting the ball as it might have looked live. And again, I think that's because of, the timing of the throw.
Yeah. And the angle of the broadcast. I mean, that's what everybody else, a lot of people are watching anyway as an audience.
Right. And again, you can see that Alexander actually, got beat by the route. Even though, again, I think he made a nice play to try and go ahead and try and intercept the ball. He got beat by the route. I thought Bird ran a solid route. I didn't think it was an amazing route. You've seen guys like Funchess and McCaffrey run better pivot routes, but it got the job done. And then you have the run after catch, which is mostly set up by the fact that they're in man and that he broke on the ball like that. So there's nothing really about the run after catch there. But I just thought it was a great example, and I thought Bird played a really nice game. We didn't look at it, but the other out route he ran, he made a nice catch. And I'm excited to see him going forward. And I will highlight on this next play, which is the dig to Funchess, kind of his role in that play as well. So this is a good example here of motion kind of late in the down or late in the pre-snap affecting how the defense has to cover and kind of messing with their coverage a little bit. you'll see Rhodes is like, I'm going with Funchess, and then they kind of communicate, no, that's not going to work. I didn't get over in time. In reality, they don't really mess up. So they do kind of ultimately settle into a coverage here. So basically with Harrison Smith playing man on Bird, and then Funchess man up on Trey Waynes. And what you're going to see here is they're going to run what's called a dagger concept. Very, very, very common concept. You'll see, in particular, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers love to run this to Mike Evans. And the Panthers use it a lot too. So Bird here, and it's important, often to use somebody that you trust who's fast to get down the field deep. And you'll see, it's kind of funny, in some ways Bird is quite open.
Exactly.
A little bit of that is because of the throw ends up going to Funchess, but and I think that the reason Cam didn't throw it to Bird, honestly, is that he knew Funchess was going to be wide open.
Yeah, he had to see him coming. He had to see, because if the safety just lets that guy go, Bird has him beat all day. I mean,
right,
and that just leaves the middle of the field open for Cam. He had to see the safety go up top there.
Right, exactly. And even though he could have, honestly, even with the safety going on top, he could have taken the shot to Bird, and I think it wouldn't have been an unreasonable play. When you're just looking at how much grass there is in the middle of the field, and again, I want to get into this a little bit, is that this is the type of play you want to run against the Vikings, which is a play that will take advantage of the fact that they play with outside leverage with their corners often. So you want to clear out the middle of the field however you can so your receiver can run inside against that outside leverage, which is what they do. So I think that if you're Cam and you're looking at this play as it's happening, you could say, well, yeah, we could throw to Bird over the top, but the thing is here is that if I'm patient and I throw to Funchess, that whole middle of the field is wide open. And granted, it's still not an easy throw, and Cam makes a great throw to put it right on Funchess. But again, I love the game. I love the play call. I love the late shift, and I love the kind of running it from stack formation as well. And I love that they, kind of understood, at least in terms of what the Minnesota Vikings defense wants to do and some of the ways they could take advantage. So you see that here with that inside route, clearing the middle of the field, taking the safety, and then Funchess running a good route and beating Waynes. But to be honest here, a lot of that is also by design, though he did make sure to create separation against Waynes, which helps to make that, because if he runs a bad route and the defender has outside leverage, but he's right on top of him, he might be there to make a play and knock the ball away. So
and this play, this was also a 2nd and 17. So Cam probably knows if he doesn't get anything, if he takes a deep shot, misses, all of a sudden it's a 3rd and 17, and they're going to drop him and try to keep you from getting a deep shot.
100%. Yeah, maybe if it's 2nd and 3, you take the deep shot.
Yeah.
But no, it was absolutely the right play. Beautiful throw. Cam, ever since recovering from that thumb injury, really seems to be throwing the ball really, really well. Just sorry, go for it.
Yeah, that's one of the things. Talking about this Damiere Byrd in this situation, though, this is exactly the type of play. With that reason, is why I think he should be that speed guy with Curtis Samuel out. I don't think there should really be a question until he proves otherwise. Because Clay came in while Byrd was out in between the Samuel and Byrd injuries, and he had multiple drops. And, I mean, obviously we can't expect Clay to come in and be, the Ted Ginn replacement or Curtis Samuel replacement, whoever you want to, call his replacement. But as far as the deep threats go, I feel like Damiere Byrd is just a burner. I mean, this is what he's proved time and time again to get his spot on this roster, and I'd like to see him. I mean, obviously they sent him on this here, and I've seen it in other plays as well. But the play, like Kalen Clay earlier, I feel like Damiere's speed may have affected that play a little bit more. Obviously, Trey Waynes is right there with him on their speed times and whatnot. But I feel like Damiere Byrd could be dangerous in those type of formations, just like Ted Ginn was. I mean, Shula was infamous for running Ginn from one side of the field, get matched up with a linebacker, and then he's across the field in the corner of the end zone in the blink of an eye, and Cam's hitting him. I mean, that was signature 2015 season.
Yeah, no, and I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to mention that too. Is one of the things that stood out to me watching the tape because it's a little hard to tell in the broadcast since the whole field is that just how fast Damiere Byrd looks. As pro day, I think he was reported to run like a 4.3 or 4.35, somewhere right in there. So I think that's legit. I mean, I think, like I said, I think he looks faster than Clay to me, and like you're saying, and And one of the things about that too is like with this concept, it just allows the concept to work faster as well. The quarterback doesn't have to hold the ball as long as the pocket. You also create more separation between you and the guy running the dig. When you are faster, there's more space now. The field's more. So yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I think he should be, and we saw on Sunday he played, a huge chunk of the snaps compared to Kalen Clay, and I really think he should be that wide receiver too for them, going forward.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that assessment, and I hope they try to incorporate him more. Obviously, with Funchess being back, I mean not Funchess, Olsen being back. Rivera's talking about wanting to get him more involved, and I mean he said the same thing about Funchess going into this season, and then they traded Kelvin Benjamin, so maybe they are going to try to get him more involved going forward. And I know you've mentioned on Twitter a few times talking about how you'd like to see Olsen and McCaffrey in some high-low concepts and stuff. So I mean, it might be something we get to see.
Yeah, and even some like 3-man, they obviously love to run that 3-level like sail concept, and that would be a great situation to use Bird as that stretch guy, McCaffrey into the flat, and Olsen into the, Olsen on that corner route would obviously be a great combination with Funchess on the backside as the X, isolated, one-on-one with somebody. That would be something I would look to do, and I think they will, to be honest. In the future. Olsen's just getting back. I thought it was funny. Rivera said he was open a lot. I don't really agree with that. There was like 1 or 2 plays where I thought he was open. I don't think he played bad. He didn't look particularly bad to me. I just think the Vikings are – I mean, we talked with Arif Hassan about this in the podcast. Like, there is no weakness on that defense, really. They can cover. They can rush the passer. They can stop the run. Obviously, we had a lot more success against them than most teams. So I don't think there's any shame in the way the Panthers played in the passing game necessarily. They just don't, especially with Samuel out and Olsen just coming back. They don't really have the horses and the issues they have on the offensive line. If they could really, really protect, he might be able to do some more things.
That's one of the things I brought up too was Mike Remmers was out, and they're who's been a solid center. Rookie center for them was also out that game, and I was I mentioned it on Twitter. I said it's going to be interesting to see how much of a factor that plays in, because I don't think a lot of people looked into that, and it obviously did. I mean, it was Remmers had his issues with Carolina, but he's had a pretty good year with whatever he's been doing in Minnesota, so that's one thing.
He was a solid player in Carolina. I think people.
He was a hell of a run blocker, though. I mean, he was a solid run blocker. He just struggled with speed rushers on the edge.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and he got a little bit of a bad rap because he couldn't block Von Miller one-on-one.
In the biggest game of his career, yeah. I mean,
yeah, and I'm sorry that he like basically every other tackle in the NFL couldn't block Von Miller.
Yeah, right. That's part of that. That's the main reason they got to the Super Bowl to play Carolina was because of the defense. It surely wasn't Peyton Manning that year.
No, that defense was, especially that playoff run was, for my money, the best defense I've seen, in sort of the modern NFL. At least that stretch run. I think the Jaguars are definitely pushing that right now.
Man, they are looking strong.
Yeah,
it's hard to fathom them even in an AFC Championship game, but they're doing it to everybody. I mean, they just made Russell Wilson look silly this past week.
Yeah, and I was looking at the numbers, and their defense is hitting every number you would want them to hit in terms of like all-time great defense. So once you have all-time great defense, you are a threat to win the Super Bowl no matter what. So I think that now is the time to start talking with them as legitimate Super Bowl contenders, because if they get hot, especially, we've seen Brady plenty of times get beat up by great defenses.
Oh yeah,
it's just tough, and that's what the Broncos did. Obviously Blake Bortles not ideal, but they've got enough. They're good on special teams. I mean, there's just enough that they have. They can run the ball. There's enough that they have going that I think that I would be very scared to play them in the Super Bowl. Which is, I never thought I'd be saying that about a Blake Bortles quarterback team.
Yeah, because it better not fall on the offense. That's all I know. Because that might end pretty rough for them. But like I said, guys, y'all be sure to follow here on Panthers Source on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at Panthers Source. And like I said, Scott Leedy, you can follow him. His Twitter handle is up in the post. Scott, is there anywhere else they can really follow you or anything?
No, that's it. That's really it. I have a YouTube channel too that I post videos for every once in a while. I haven't done one recently, but I probably will. Do a few more before the season's out. So I'll link to those on my Twitter handle, and then you can always follow my channel when I send those links out. So yeah, thanks so much for having me, Trip, and I hope we can do this again sometime soon.
Yeah, man. Maybe at some point we can make it a weekly thing. Like I said, I'm trying to get this film review thing going because there's just not a lot dedicated to Carolina, and I know Billy and all of them do a great job. I'm over at CSR. Him and I don't even know Canadian Panther's name. I just call him Canadian Panther.
Yeah, Canadian Panther. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
but y'all do a great job, and I enjoy talking with all y'all and breaking it down. So I'll definitely have you back up here, man. I appreciate you joining.
Yep. Thanks so much for having me.
Yep. We'll catch y'all Sunday after the game. Panther Source post-game show right here. Y'all be sure to tune in 7 o'clock following every Panthers game and on a 1 p.m. kickoff anyway. So y'all be sure to check us out, and we will see y'all Sunday, hopefully after a big defeat of Aaron Rodgers. Keep pounding.